Welcome back to Darlington Raceway, Darlington, South Carolina, where the track is open for the second practice session of the day, and this will be final practice for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. The first session was an eventful one, and it started right off the bat. I don't think we've been on the air for 2 minutes when Kurt Busch had this big slide. Tony Stewart got up and into the wall just a bit. Scott Speed had to go to a backup car after collecting 3 out of 4 corners on his machine, as did David Rudiman. Need a backup as well. Not so Michael Waltrip or Casey Kane. Maybe the wall took the worst pounding of all in this first practice session. There is the lady in black. That's how she got her name. Those walls started out white. They don't end up that way, as 10 cars found the fence. Hi, everybody. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip with you once again. And Darlington is taking no prisoners, sending cars to the house, and doing what she always does, really testing man and machine.
Yeah, well, I just think it just proves how treacherous this place is. I mean, we're just practicing, you know. In order, we've had 10 cars that have been in the fence, and of course, we got another whole hour and a half to go here. So who knows what will happen in the next session, because now you're going to go out and see how fast you can go, which means you're going to see how fast you can hit the wall this time.
Larry, I recall one crew chief saying our backup car is every bit as good as his primary, and I guess when you come here, you need to load your best bullets in that truck.
Yeah, what
I
actually saw with both those backup cars, it didn't take them long to get them out on the racetrack. Scott Speed was back out there quite quickly. Now, David Rudiman did not make it back out because that happened right at the end of practice. But you come here knowing, especially with 2 hour-and-a-half practice sessions, that you very well could go to that backup car. And I think Darrell hit the nail on the head with the speeds really ramping up in this practice session, especially near the end as they go after these practice qualifying runs. That was just round 1 that we saw highlights of a while ago.
So this is final practice, and it will be followed by qualifying later on this afternoon right here on Speed. Casey Mears has quickly put up a lap of 28.364. and that is the fastest lap so far. Let's go to the garage and join Chris Devoto.
Well, Mike, talking with Jeff Burton, Casey Mears' teammate, those 2 RCR cars are running pretty well. But on the other side, Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick, not so much, extremely tight. I talked with both Jeff Burton and Clint Boyer. Jeff said the thing with this track, the speed deceives you. It's almost like it tricks you into thinking you're more stable. A lady using trickery to get what she wants. All the ladies out there are nodding in approval. We don't get what we want. We get mean. We get vengeful. Clint Boyer and I were joking. This should not be the lady in black. She's no lady, Matt Yoakum. She's a broad.
Well, Chris Devoto, one guy who's been very fast. Every time he comes to Darlington, that's Greg Biffle, 2-time series winner. The first session, fast and clean. No Darlington stripe on the 16. Biffle told me if there's one area that he needs to work on this car, which was second quick in the first session, is down in the center of 3 and 4. Through the years, that's been the place that's provided the biggest hindrance for him, where he has to then make it up going down into turns 1 and 2, but he feels like they've got a very sporty machine. He's not sure if they'll run the entire session, but they're very close to the feel he's looking for in this 16 car.
Thanks, folks. Larry, let's talk about what is at stake here for the crew chiefs in this session. You're going to at some point have to make a mock qualifying run, but you're also going to have to take a hot, muggy day and somehow use it to translate what you're going to need this car to be on what is likely to be a hot, muggy night here to race it tomorrow night. So you got a lot to do.
Well, you do, Mike, in a short time to do it. And, you know, the biggest thing, it's still going to be, as you said, very humid, very muggy, even under the lights tomorrow night. The biggest thing that the track will do tomorrow night is just gain overall grip when it cools down. So, yeah, you've got to be able to make huge adjustments to your race car as the track gets cooler and cooler, because this is a 500-mile race, and it definitely will go through some changes. But what it takes to run a qualifying lap here and what it takes to be comfortable for a long green run, and we can and will probably get some long green runs, it is 2 totally different packages.
I think the bigger thing about night racing is it's a little bit less humid, and it's a little bit easier on the driver. You know, it's not so hot in the car, and the air that you're pulling in from the outside, it's got a little bit of a cooling effect, whereas right now, what's 100-mile-an-hour hot air?
It's hotter.
It's a torch.
Right.
It's a torch. So when you got those ducts open and all that air from outside blowing in, it's like you got the heater on in the car.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now, he's actually 10th quickest, as we've had 17 cars out there. A lot like what we've seen with this type of a schedule. There just wasn't a flurry of cars that went out there when this practice started, because they had just been out there 30 minutes ago, and it's almost hard to make major changes on your race car, scale it out, all the things you do, debrief as well in a 30-minute period.
Well, we saw a little bit ago there, we saw David Pearson in our earlier session down wandering around in the garage area. And a guy that runs this track the same way David did is a guy that's got the most current of the active drivers, the most wins. That's Jeff Gordon. And I watch him come in and out of the garage. Doesn't have a scratch on his car. He's sitting here right now in the top 10, I think, in speed. He's 10th. He'll quietly go about his business until he gets ready to put down a lap, and he will, in the same way we'll race tomorrow night.
Let's talk about their strategy last week, Darrell, because I recall Steve Letarte telling him, I can't give you a winning car, meaning they don't have the adjustments built into the car to make to get up there and run with Kyle Busch. But if I get you out front with the lead, do the best job you can, hold off as many as you can.
I can't give you a winning car, but I could at least given you a chance. And with the tires he had on, he had no chance.
But he did take the points lead back.
Call that mission accomplished. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Final Practice brought to you by the Harley-Davidson Super Ride. Take the ride of your life today. And by Coors Light, introducing the Coors Light 12-ounce cold activated can. When the mountains turn blue, your beer is as cold as the Rockies. Well, Sudden Sam has become Sideways Sam here at Darlington today. He has skinned up the right side of that Mobil 1 Dodge.
He's having quite the experience here today. This is his second excursion. Just gets loose. Get up here in that gray area. That's what happens.
But when you can see the tires blowing as they're sliding, but when you spin off turn 4 at Darlington and you end up not in the wall, and that's all you have to do is put 4 fresh tires on, you actually have had a pretty good day.
Tells me he wasn't going very fast.
Well, all that damage.
That's why he got it slowed down a lot, apparently.
Yeah, all that damage was from the first practice session. Mark Martin has not yet been out in this practice. Checking things over. Here's Krista.
Well, Mike, someone who does have damage is the 33 team you see down here in the garage working on the right side, the BBT.com Chevrolet. And before this practice started, I talked with Clinton. He said they were so tight they just couldn't turn. What did he say when he came on the radio pulling in? Loose, loose everywhere. And I guess part of this might be my fault. I mean, Clinton and I were talking. We called her a broad, the lady in black. I think she heard us.
Well, evidently they got the tightness out. They jumped the fence. See Richard Childers, the car owner there, surveying the damage with Clint. And you know, Darrell, I've got to say, that was probably one of the things as a crew chief, and I know Jeff probably went through the same thing. You make changes, you make changes, you make changes. The car just won't respond. And then you throw this big package at it, and then it's just sideways if the car's been pushing and jump the fence.
Yeah, that's what I used to tell Hammond, quit picking at it. You know, we got to do something here to make a difference. If you're pushing or you're loose, whichever way. And I always tell him, just quit picking at it and do something so I can tell the difference. Because those little teeny changes, those tweaks, are not getting me where I need to be.
How much practice did you have back then? Today, for example, we have 2 hour-and-a-half practice sessions, and that's about it.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of practice. I can't give you a number.
Check in here on Thursday.
Yeah, we used to practice a lot all day, sometimes all day long, and qualify the next day. So we used to have quite a bit of practice. But it took it. I mean, you needed that much time here because, Mike, remember, a lot of people don't know what you're talking about when you talk about bear grease. There's driveway sealer, and Barney Watts, those guys, Kaiser and all of them, I mean, they used to just think it was the funniest thing in the world to paint this thing with that driveway sealer and make it as slick as glass.
Now, Scott Riggs is one of the go-or-go homers. So, Larry, he just made a mock qualifying run, and that's what's put him at the top of the board at 28:31.
Yeah, he actually had been pretty decent in that first practice session, and that's still not as quick as Brian Vickers, who was the fastest in the first practice. Brian's time was a 28-23. And I was just looking in that first practice session. Scott Riggs was actually 10th in that practice, so not a huge surprise.
I believe we'll be on down in those 27s. Pretty good when it gets time to go.
Well, Scott Riggs, he didn't even make it to the garage area as the fastest car, because now another go homer, Joe Nemechek, in the 87 car jumps to the top of the charts, and Joe was actually 7th quickest in the first practice session.
Carol, I remember the Bear Grease days, and I remember the arguments the drivers used to have with then track president Barney Wallace and later Bill Kaiser, because it always seemed that the best racing we'd have at Darlington would be one race after they put the Bear Grease down.
Yeah, well, what happened is they used to do Richmond the same way recently, but they put that Bear Grease down, and what you do, and it worked out really well, is you'd wear it off in the bottom, let's say, or maybe back in that time we'd wear it off around the top, and you'd search for the Bear Grease because it would create grip during the race. So it gave you two opportunities. If you had new tires, you could run one place. If you had old tires, you could run another place. You used the whole racetrack that way.
Joe Nemechek, his time at the top of the board, it was short-lived, because now David Gilliland, now that's the fastest lap of the day. David Gilliland in the 71 car at a 28.08. So we're keep flirting with those 27s, and right now the track record, Greg Biffle has it, and it is like a 27.40 something that was set last year.
Matt?
Mike, keeping a trend that owner Roger Penske likes to have all of his cars have a somewhat similar look. Now the 77, Sam Hornish, he's got the Darlington stripe like his two teammates. Basically what happened to Hornish, he just got up in the loose stuff, up in the corner, lost it. That's what happened. They've made a shock change, but Sam is actually very pleased with the handling of the 77 car. Top 10 on the board. He's pretty confident.
I think the biggest reason that Sam Hornish is confident is you look at the month of April, how good it was to him. Top 10 finish at Phoenix. Actually went to Talladega, qualified top 5, had a fast race car, caught up in a crash with less than 10 laps to go, and then got a career best finish last week at Richmond, finished 6th.
We had him on trackside last week, and we'd had him on before. Very shy, kind of timid guy, didn't have a lot to say, kind of looked down at the ground all the time.
Right, remember that.
He wasn't that way last weekend. He had that head cocked up in the air, and he had a bit of an attitude about him. I kind of liked what I saw.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Burton is 8th in the Caterpillar Chevy. You just know that this is a Jeff Burton kind of racetrack, and I liken him a lot to David Pearson. Burton will take a car and carry it for much of the race, and then you get about 25 laps to go, and there he is up there in the top 5, and you're going, where did he come from?
I liken him more to Benny Parsons.
Oh, good. That's a good comparison.
And I'll tell you why, because, you know, you look at Benny and you say, he's a race car driver. And Benny Parsons got in a race car. He was quiet. He took his time. He didn't get in a hurry. He didn't push people around. He didn't knock people out of his way.
Right.
But, buddy, when you looked in the mirror late in the race and Benny Parsons was around, you said, woo, I might have to deal with him.
Yes, sir.
You mean like right here in 1978 when you and Benny just had a fierce duel?
I had several of them with my friend Benny Parsons.
Welcome back to Darlington. I'm not sure what Matt Yoakum knows or when he knows it, but when he told us about the Penske cars achieving a uniform right side Darlington stripe, Dave Extreme had not hit the wall. All that changed during commercial. Watch this.
Yeah, and that's a bad kind of lick right there. He didn't get it loose up in the middle of the corner. He just must have pushed real bad for him off turn 2 there. Drove straight in the fence. That's hard on the car.
You know, definitely of all, and we just got the word that David Stremme, the 12 car, Roy McCauley, they will be going to backup car. But Darrell, it just seems like, yeah, we've had trouble all around the racetrack, but turn 2 seems to be the trouble spot for these guys.
And it's not unusual, because back in the day it was turn 4, and there was a dip over there where the crossover was. And man, you'd come off turn 4 and you'd be having a head of steam, and you'd hit that little dip in the racetrack, and you'd jump into the fence before you can even bat your eyes. So that turn has always been kind of nasty, and it's really that turns 1 and 2 are 3 turns. You go in, you run across the middle of 1 and 2, and then you got to whack it to the bottom and get those left side tires on the apron getting off that corner. If you don't, you're in harm's way.
And as you mentioned, Darrell, that used to be turn 4, because what is now the back stretch used to be the front stretch. when the Speedway wanted to expand its seating. In fact, that whole front stretch grandstand was covered. And the one back here wasn't the one the back stretch double decked. It looked a little like chicken coops as you looked across from the front straightaway. And the Speedway wanted to modernize and expand. The problem was Highway 151 runs right behind that front, what was the front stretch grandstand. So the track was reconfigured, much like happened in Atlanta several years ago. And what was the backstretch in 1997, they built all brand new grandstands and turned the track around and made that the front straightaway.
And I'll never forget, we all complained. We said, man, you can't do that to Darlington. There's no way. That's not right. You can't do that. And now it's like, well, do you remember when?
There's the Starship Enterprise looking just a little worse for wear.
Yeah, like Darrell pointed out, that wasn't one of those glancing blows there.
No.
Matt, that was a pretty hard lick, especially on that right front.
Absolutely hard shot. And Larry Mack, now what you're going to see is they're taking the car down off the lift in the back of the hauler. You'll see from time to time a NASCAR official walk around the car, poke their head in the car, in the deck lid, just doing a safety check. So that way they can allow that car to get back out on the racetrack quicker than normal. Then they'll go through their normal inspection before qualifying. But I had an interesting conversation with David Stremme and Roy McCulley this morning, and it was the what if conversation. What if they just had not had the issue last week? They had a great run going. Just different things have popped up to spoil great runs. They've got some wonderful chemistry, they feel, between the two of them, and it's showing at times they just can't put the entire package together for the race. But like you've always said, at some point in time, you'll flip a light switch, and it'll seem like it's been magic all along.
Yeah, as Scotty said to Captain Kirk, you cannot change the laws of physics, Captain.
There's the backup car, and I always feel compelled to make sure we explain the rules on these backup cars. I think we talked about this in the first practice session. It's not an impound week, but it's a lot like the Phoenix and the Richmond schedule. 2 hour-and-a-half practice sessions. We qualify. The teams can work on the cars, but there's no more practice after qualifying. So since they're going to these backup cars before qualifying, at about 5 o'clock Eastern time when we have qualifying, as long as they present these backup cars with the race engine, they can start the race where they qualify because it is before qualifying.
Trust me, everybody in the garage area is walking around. How much longer is this practice session?
Yeah, is it over yet?
Let's get it over with.
You know, another unique feature of this racetrack is used to listen to the races on the radio. They always had a reporter stationed in the pagoda.
Yeah.
Which was a building right behind pit road, right at the start-finish line, and it was kind of like an official's tower. They ran the race from there instead of across the track at the top of the grandstand. Denny Hamlin's going to have to see his Farm Bureau insurance adjuster for that right side damage.
Oh, shoot. It didn't even disturb the decal. She's good to go.
Didn't even get past the deductible, did it, Larry?
Exactly. Good to go.
Mark Martin is out. I think this is his first run of this practice session.
Yeah, we saw Mark wandering through the garage area just a little bit ago.
And he goes to the top of the chart right away.
That didn't take long. 28.08, 0.84. He beats David Gilliland by 1/1000th of a second. And that definitely was a practice qualifying run. He will be one and done.
Now, unless they don't plan to practice much, Larry, for the drivers that are locked in the field, is it kind of early in this session to be making mock qualifying runs or not?
It is a little bit early because, Darrell, this is one of these places I would think that the last feel I want you to feel before qualifying is a practice qualifying run. I don't want you to have to feel a race run and then go out there and try to step it up qualifying. I want you to feel what we felt last in practice.
A lot of times, Mike, it'll have to do with when you go out in the qualifying order. If you go out early, you want to get your qualifying run in so you got time to work on the car, maybe tweak it, whatever, and get it prepared to go through tech for qualifying. But I was watching Sam, you know, a few minutes ago, he's turning around backwards here on the front straightaway. He went back out, and he went back out with a vengeance. That's the thing I'm liking about what I'm seeing out of Sam right now. He's got the confidence. He didn't go back out there and putz around and say, oh, I got to get back comfortable, you know. He went right back out there, drove it down into turn 3, under Dale Jr., made the pass, and drove off.
Yeah, his fast lap is 28.50, and right now he's running 22 laps. He's still running 28.80s.
Tickets are available for the LifeLock 400 June 14th at Michigan International Speedway. 800-354-1010 or visit the Speedway website. Kids under 12 free. Add Max Pappas to the list of drivers who have had a brush with the wall.
You know, Mike, right now, of course, he's a go or go home car. He's 9th quickest in this practice session in that 13 car.
But you got to love this car for this racetrack, because back in the day, I mean, you bust a wall like some of these guys have in this practice session, and you won't be fixing it and getting back out. You'll be getting out the backup car.
I think it was a year ago where it really set in and dawned on us just how durable this car is.
You talking about the 18 car when he was, I mean, bounced it off the fence every lap.
Especially off turn 2.
And won the race.
Krista?
Mike, can you imagine the celebration if Tony Stewart's first win as an owner driver comes here at Darlington, one of only 3 tracks where he's never won on the Cup side. Tony Stewart coming in after a very, very long run. The handling was not quite right before that run. He set in 1 and 2 in the last third of 3 and 4. So after that long run, what did he say, Matt? He said, didn't feel too bad.
And down in the 5 garage, Mark Martin trying to score their 2nd win of 2009. Mark says the back end, although it was loose, not terribly bad, but the front end was just turning on a dime. He said it just turned so well, he was afraid it would jump out from underneath him. The entry down in turn 1 was a little swervy, he said, but overall, very pleased with his 5 machine in this final practice. Alan Gustafson's going to make a slight camber change in the left front and a left rear spring change as well. Go back out and see just how big, how dramatic that change will be in the field that Martin's looking for.
Mike, this joint right here, it puts the drive in driver, because you never have a perfect car here. You see Greg Biffle, who was the fastest in our first practice session, and I think he ended up, but here you never rest. You know, forget 42 other competitors. You never can relax here, and you never have the perfect car here. You're going to have to deal with what you got all night long. You just got to hope it's better than your competitors.
Larry, is Greg on your list of cars who have been in the fence?
He is now. I think Matt Yoakum bragged on him too much at the beginning of this practice. And you see he's got quite the Darlington stripe on that 16 car. Right now he's 28th quickest, and he's only run 4 laps. So this actually happened just recently.
I saw him pull out of the garage, Larry, and the car looked like that when he pulled out. So it must have happened on his first run in this practice session. Krista.
Just want to give you a quick update on Jimmy Johnson as he came in. The track canals told him on that run, be careful. These are our qualifying tires, so take it easy. They're planning on going back out for about a 15-lap run. They want to just gauge where they're at. Right now, though, Jimmy Johnson says just a little bit tight. Just wants it to turn a little bit better.
You know, one of the things that you talk about this whole racetrack, and man, you finally get to say, okay, it's time to make a pit stop. Guess what? That ain't easy either, because this place is one of the most difficult pit roads to get slowed down and get onto, because it's always dirty down there. And so when you come off of the racetrack and you look at that yellow line, where does it run? It runs right into those water barrels. So you got to really be careful. It would not surprise me one bit to see somebody in those barrels before the weekend's over with.
Yeah, Darryl, you're carrying so much speed, and you try to get down on that apron. Not only is the apron dirty, it's perfectly flat, and it won't almost hold the speed that you're trying to run there till you get to that commit cone right there where you have to be down to pit road speed.
There's just no place to rest here. I mean, you can go in the bathroom, somebody's beating on the door when you hurry and come out.
AJ, 17th in this session, having a strong run. Just got kicked to 18th, but he is the 4th quickest Dodge.
You know, his first time here a couple of years ago, it just jumps out at me. He got a lap down early, but he sat there and ran in the top 5 with those guys 1 lap down for the majority of that race. He picked up on this racetrack quickly, shortly into that race.
And he kind of earned his stripes that day, and I don't mean Darlington stripe.
Yeah, you know? But if you're not intimidated by the place, if you have no preconceived notions about the place, it's just another racetrack, and you don't know that it can, you know, bite you. You go out there and drive the wheels off of it till it does grab you and bite you.
I think Scott Speed would probably agree with that.
Yeah, I'm telling you. You cannot walk in here and say, it's just another racetrack. Guess what?
There's a Dale Inman salute on the hood of that 43. Dale, of course, was one of the greatest crew chiefs that our sport's ever known.
Yeah, I mean, he won 8 championships. Of course, he won 7 with Richard Petty and 1 with Terry Labonte. And Dale was telling the story the other day of how much the role of a crew chief has changed. He said he's not even sure how the title crew chief came along. He just happened to be the one to talk to the driver, to argue with NASCAR, to make the calls on pit road. And he said, you know, back in the day, I think we actually have the caution out, but he said when he was the crew chief for Richard Petty, he made changes on the car. He made the decisions on the car. If they were getting a rain out, he had to run to the telephone and make hotel reservations because of having to stay another day. He said, so the role of a crew chief has changed so much, and Dale Inman is still here every single week with Richard Petty Motorsports.
Well, one of his cars has just been in the fence, A.J. Allmendinger with the right side. That is the reason that this practice session has gone under the red flag briefly. Let's have a look at the right side. Yep.
You know, if anybody in the garage area is watching our broadcast, they're going to say, please quit talking about us or showing the right side of our car when it's clean, because it's not long after that we end up with an issue.
And as they say, the hits just keep on coming. Richard Petty, Robbie Loomis looking things over. A.J. Allmendinger getting up against the wall has put the track under the red flag, at least briefly.
You know what's added to their problems is the Penske teams. I mean, there's the Penske teams. They've got the new Dodge engine, and they're showing that those engines will run. And Richard and them don't have them. I think that's causing some unrest in their camp.
Agreed. Matt?
Mike, catching up with Marcos Ambrose, we talked so much about the mental aspect of this game. When you come to a place like Darlington for the first time, when you first came here, was there any place that gave you some sense of, okay, I've kind of experienced this before you came to the States?
This track's kind of like going into the outback. Eventually, if you stayed there long enough, you're going to get scratched. So I'm trying to limit how many laps I do out there just to keep it off the fence. I know you've been jinxing a few guys here in your telecast. I hope I'm not one of them.
By the way, you have killed, and I say completely killed, the right side of your car. Pleased with where you guys are so far during this session today?
We have not touched the side of the car yet, which I'm going to try and keep it that way to the end of the day. We're pleased. We're right where we want to be. We're running through some stuff. We're a little bit behind on our time. Hopefully we'll have enough time left here at the end of practice to get a tape-off run before qualifying.
All right, thanks. Good luck this week.
Hey, don't forget to grill your beans.
Absolutely. And by the way, Mike, just take a look at this right side. They have completely killed this right rear quarter panel. I don't know how much bear bond they're going to be able to put on that to try to cover up all those Darlington stripes.
Matt, I think you're just trying to avoid being the SI cover curse for the drivers today. Every time you talk to one or about one, boom. I can't believe that called shot on David Stremming. Well, we'll see how things go. Was it Yogi Berra? Did Yogi actually say 90% of this game is half mental? No. Applies to this.
I think he said that 90% of it was physical and the other 50%
was mental.
Mental, yeah.
I believe you're right.
Something like that.
As you usually are.
Yeah. Well, I know Yogi Berra's stuff pretty well.
Juan Pablo Montoya, the 42 car, quite a ways down the practice sheet right now. He's running a total of 11 laps, and he's 36 quickest so far in this practice session. Had a good run last week at Richmond, top 10 run, and that was basically after starting at the back of the field. Brian Patty told me on race day there at Richmond, they pretty much had changed everything but the roof number and the driver, but it certainly paid off. They're sitting there 14th in the points, only 35 points out of the top 12.
It's a great example of a driver with a tremendous amount of talent. He's won on the world stage, 7 Formula One victories, Indianapolis 500 victory. Just a matter of getting the right combination under him and getting him closer to victory lane.
But you know what? I look at the top 12 right now, and I say to myself, somebody outside that top 12 is really going to have to get on a roll here if they think they're going to get into that top 12. I know it's maybe a little early to say the top 12 is what it is, but I got to tell you, I'm thinking it is what it is right now.
I think pretty close, Darrell. There are a number of drivers I could say should be in that top 12, but there aren't any in the top 12 that I say Oh, they're going to fall out.
Right.
Going to be a packed house there, Larry.
Well, the biggest thing is right now, Clint Boyer is 8th and Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 18th. That's 11 drivers, 11 teams separated by 112 points. So, I mean, every week I think we're going to see this thing jumble up and move around.
But Larry, the guys that are in the top 12 are the guys that run in the top 12 all the time. And the other guys that are outside are the ones that keep, you know, they don't run well enough.
They're hit and miss.
Yeah, they might get one weekend and that's it.
All right, let's check with Krista.
Well, the Clint Boyer update continues. Remember, he had tons of damage on the right rear fender. He just went back out on the track about 2:06 according to my notes, so he's only been out there for a couple laps. The first thing he said on the radio, and he screamed it, too loose. He's going to be coming in and they're going to make a left rear spring change.
And that's one of the teams right there, the 33 car, Clint Boyer, that's in the top 12. As I mentioned earlier, they've had a rough 4 months. I think there's one guy outside the top 12, Darrell, if they can just get all the bad luck behind them. They've been to victory lane this year, and that's Mark Martin in that 5 group. They're sitting just outside the top 12. They're definitely performing well enough to be up there.
That is the fastest car in practice right now. Mark Martin's the only car under 28 seconds. Catch the race, catch the cash. The All-Star Race, May 16th. Sprint All-Star Race, 7 p.m. Eastern Time live. But right now, log on to speedtv.com for your chance to win $250 cash.
You know, we're approaching the halfway point of this hour-and-a-half practice session. As you said right before break, Mark Martin stepped it up again on his second practice qualifying run to a 27.92. 4 teams, 4 guys behind him in the top 5 are all part of our Go or Go Home group.
And the next one just outside the top 5 is this car, Casey Mears, who is 6th. Keeping you up on how the big swap is going. Kevin Harvick is 37th right now. We'll keep further look on that as we go along. Krista?
Well, Mike, if you watched the first practice show, talked about how this is the track that kind of turned people on to Denny Hamlin. It's so tricky, but you've always kind of seemed to have a handle on it. Why is that, and how's the car today?
Well, I definitely had a better handle on the old surface versus the new surface, but we've run well here. Our Farm Bureau Toyota is pretty good. You know, we're a little bit tight, it seemed like, on cycle tires, but you know, we're going to have to run on cycle tires at some point tomorrow, we think, so we got to have some adjustability in the car. So, you know, right now we're just trying to work on that, trying to get all the raw speed we can out of it, but yet have it to where it's comforting enough to run on a long run.
All right, thanks, Denny. Kind of stair-stepping their way to what they're going to need tomorrow night, Mike.
But, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about being locked into the top 35. Other than not maybe getting the right pit selection or pit box here on pit road for the race tomorrow night, you can have a variety of agendas that you're working on and really don't have to think about a qualifying lap until right at the end of this session. Then you tape it up, put tires on it, see what you got. But if you don't have anything real good, you're not that torn up about it.
See Paul Menard there, just looks like he made a little qualifying run, but he is the slowest of the 7 Fords that are here. Right now he's 34th quickest at a 28.79.
And we had word that Scott Speed brushed the wall again, this time in the backup car, but does not appear to be significant damage.
No, I saw it, and it's very minor, particularly compared to the last one. Very minor.
Kyle Busch has run 31 laps in this session.
Normally when he runs a lot of laps, he's not very happy.
Sounded a little puzzled there.
Yeah, I just heard him say, I don't know. And normally when he's out there a lot, practicing a lot, something's up with the car.
I think it's been well documented, you know, having his birthday last Saturday, turned 24 years old, and to have 50 wins in NASCAR's top 3 series, the Camping World Truck Series nationwide and Sprint Cup. I know he races a lot, but that's a lot of wins.
It is, Larry. It's a little hard to put that into historic perspective because when Jeff Gordon came along, or Darrell Waltrip or Richard Petty, we didn't have 3 top series. We didn't have those opportunities for young young drivers who had a lot of talent. So I think as we go forward, certainly that's a pretty good mark.
But remember something too, we didn't run 64 race. I mean, you know, back in the day when those marks were set, Richard and David Pearson particularly, they ran a lot more races than we run now. So you put it in perspective, you run 36 cup races and you run a number of truck or nationwide races to get to that number of races those guys ran back in the day.
That's a good point. Very good. Let's get word on Brian Vickers' car.
9th on the board at this juncture, Mike. Vickers just climbed out of the car, beginning a debrief with crew chief Ryan Pemberton. Their agenda, game plan, so to speak, at this point was basically to go out, make 2 runs. They made a track bar adjustment, a significant track bar adjustment. Went out, ran some laps. He came down pit road, met a crew member out on pit road. They took the track bar adjustment out, made a significant wedge adjustment, went back out, ran some more laps. Just more of a race trim type feedback that they can now debrief about to see just how big of a swing that wedge adjustment made. They're very pleased with the feedback they've gotten so far. Now what they're going to do is put the car up on the scales and switch it now over to their qualifying setup for later on this afternoon.
Well, that's adjustments they were able to make on pit road. That's adjustments they can make on pit road during a pit stop tomorrow night during this 500-mile race.
That wouldn't be a bad pick for the pole right there, I don't think.
So far, it looked pretty steamy.
And we'll see later this evening now, or later this afternoon. Here's Kurt Busch, 20th on the speed chart. He's run 25 laps in this session. He was 26th in the first practice.
Looks a lot better now than he did when the last practice started. Car's actually looks very stable. I heard Pat and some of them talk about this, a new car that they brought here today, and kind of a sister to the one I think they had at Texas, which is built off the car they had at Atlanta.
Yeah.
So they're just making trying to make their cars better and better. And as we've said, they got the new Dodge engine, and that seems to really have made these cars pick up. They
call it a new generation of car. You can't do that much with the aero, but I think they just keep making these cars lighter and lighter and put more lead in them.
Kind of a diverse range of experience and backgrounds, racing backgrounds, in the Fast Five right now. Mark Martin still the only driver to break 28 seconds. Now here's David Rudiman out for his second run after getting against the wall.
And it sounded like he just got caught off guard. He was scuffing tires. Apparently when you put stickers on, you got to be a little cautious with them. Car must be a little loose when you put stickers on. Sounded like he was doing a number of sticker runs, came off to turn 4 that time, or turn 2 that time, and with stickers on, they spun around with him.
And we certainly know that the characteristics of one set of tires to the next can vary ever so slightly as well.
Yeah, and I keep using the motorcycle analogy, but I'm telling you, it's a perfect example of you get comfortable, think you got it figured out, think everything's fine, and this place will reach up and grab you.
Which reached up and already grabbed about a third of the field here. We've got about 16 or 17 cars that's either spun out or got a Darlington stripe.
I guess it'd be more like reach out and grab you here.
Right. David Reagan in the UPS Ford, 28th overall, and the 6th fastest Ford right now for Roush Fenway Racing. Caught up with his dad the other day. Ken Reagan competed in this series for a number of years, largely as an independent driver. And now he's over at 600 Racing as general manager over there near Lowe's Motor Speedway. And if you're going to the Speed All-Star race, 600 Racing's only about a mile away. Take a run over there and look at where Larry and a lot of Cup drivers and crew chiefs have spent a lot of dollars over the years helping their kids' racing careers get started. They run the Legends and the Bandoleros and Thunder Roadster car program. Pretty neat deal.
Neat series.
Krista.
Mike, nobody understands the historical significance of this track more than Jeff Gordon. 7 Darlington wins, 5 of those in the Southern 500. That's tied with Cale Yarborough, and that means should he win this Southern 500, yes, because the name is back, he would surpass Cale Yarborough. That is something that is certainly not lost on him. They're switching the car over to qualifying trim. I just talked to him, and I said, how are you going to be? He said, we'll be pretty good.
I think he will too. He always finds a way to run good here, and he always finds a way late in the race to win here too.
You know, and Cale will be here tomorrow. We're going to sit down with him tomorrow afternoon, and tomorrow evening he is going to drive the ceremonial first lap in the pace car to get tomorrow night's race started. Cale Yarborough.
I'm just glad. I love seeing Cale at the track. He was one of the. He's a funny guy. He's still as intense as he ever was, and he has so many stories to tell. I tell you, you can sit down and just be entertained for hours by he and even David Pearson and some of the older drivers, Buddy Baker. They just got these incredible stories to tell, and they're all true. But I don't make them up.
What I thought was really neat was when he came here to take Joey Logano for a ride in that two-seater. Cale comes out and he's dressed in one of his fire suits from what must have been about 1982 or 83. And it's not that, I mean, certainly Cale or whoever sponsored this deal could afford a brand new fire suit. But I can't fit in anything from 1983. I thought that was really pretty cool.
Joey Logano still scratching his head trying to figure out what that was Cale was wearing.
Well, and Cale is proud of the fact that he wore that suit back in the 70s and can still get in it.
And talk about a man to pull those gloves up over the elbow.
Oh, man.
Wow. Nobody tougher. Saturday, May 16th. It'll be here before you know it. And for just $25, you can be there. That's where tickets start for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race. Call the number on your screen or visit the Lowe's Motor Speedway website.
I'm going to get me a ticket right up. I don't know what's going on right there where all those people. I'm going to get me a ticket right there, but it must be something special.
It's a popular place.
It is.
They're waiting for Hamlin. Krista.
Well, Jeff Burton has joked this week that Darlington is a lot like your career, a lot of ups and downs, but there have been a lot more ups at this racetrack for you than a lot of these other drivers. How is your race car?
It's really good. The Cat and Ballad really is doing everything I wanted to do right now. I'm exceptionally happy with it. You know, the key here is being fast to start, but being fast for a long run. We saw a lot of long runs here last year, and I think we'll see that again this year. But then you'll get a lot of caution, so you got to be able to blast off fast and keep speed. And right now, I feel we're reasonably fast. We're probably 6th or 7th on the board from people not in qualifying trim. And you know, on a long run, we're really good. I'm really happy with it.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
You may not bet on Jeff Burton for tomorrow night, but I wouldn't bet against him.
Well, we talked about the 2 wins he has here, and he has 25 starts with 15 top 10 finishes and only 1 DNF. Now, he may be happy, but I can't quite imagine that his teammate right now, Kevin Harvick, is very happy. Darrell and I were both watching him when he went out that time. He's 40th quickest, and his no matter what, his laps are in the 28, 70s, and 80s.
It just, I don't know what's going on with Kevin and his operation here, but the 29 car, they just can't get him happy. He wasn't happy at Bristol. He wasn't happy at Phoenix. He just hadn't been happy with his race car for some reason. And when Happy's not happy, we got problems.
And now he has a whole brand new race team from crew chief on down. Now, if that engine is going into the number 43, it looks like it is.
It looks like it will be going into Reed Sorensen's car, and not very fast in his practice session. He's 41st quickest out of the 45 cars, so that means basically when he qualifies a little later on this afternoon, it'll be for pit selection only.
Now, Larry, let's remind folks that you can't just change engines on a whim or because you think that engine is down on power.
No, and we're looking at the Richard Petty Motorsports. If you go back to Talladega, all 4 of their cars changed engines. We know for sure NASCAR documented an issue with 2 of them. So that's not a problem. You change it, only penalty you pay to the rear of the field. But they changed 2 of those engines because of problems the other 2 had. And if NASCAR does not find a problem, they keep that engine.
Now, Evernham Engines is still the name of the engine building company that has been part of Gillette Evernham last year, and now with the merger with Petty Holdings, Richard Petty Motorsports. They're down there in Concord, North Carolina, not far from the Speedway. The neat thing about the Sprint All-Star Race and the Coke 600 is a lot of folks will come down for the whole week, and in between races, they will be clogging intersections and traffic lights and visiting all the race shops and some of the other companies that serve the sport, because most all of them are located within about a 20-mile radius of either Concord or Mooresville, North Carolina.
Well, and we also know that this is certainly one of the older versions of the Dodge engine, because you can't just pull one of the old engines out and drop one of the new ones in. It takes quite a bit of fabricating, I guess, and maybe
you almost have to build the car.
Build a snout around the new engine So looks like they're going right back in with some of the older version engines.
Now, why would NASCAR keep a $50,000, $60,000 engine, even though there, if there wasn't nothing wrong with it? What's the big deal here? Well, it's the only thing that will work with this top 35 rule, because when you look at the go-or-go homers, they could easily roll in here with an engine maybe that has a little more power, that's a little more marginal for the race, and say, oh, we got a problem, we got to change it after qualifying. They don't mind going to the rear of the field because they're in the field. So they have to have a rule like that.
David Stremme back out in the Enterprise, the Star Trek Dodge for Penske Racing. Tonight on Speed, right there on the Speed stage. The Ultimate Friday Night Party becomes too tough to tame on trackside. Now, you're not going to see it until 11 p.m. tonight, but it's worth staying up for.
Absolutely. Clint Boyer's going to join us.
I can't.
Silver Fox, David Pearson.
I can't stay up late. Good grief.
Matt.
Mike, when you come to Darlington, any racing sports prognosticator will tell you you've always got to at least try to put part of your money on Greg Biffle. So strong here, two-time winner. We were talking earlier just about this racetrack and how every time you come back, there's always one small little area that you always seem to have issues with.
Yeah, turn 3 and 4, I'm always really good across 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 we struggle, but we made some changes there, and cars really, really good across 3 and 4. Got my Darlington stripe. I haven't had one of those in a couple of years, so well, hopefully I got that out of the way for the weekend.
And for you with your foundation, you do so much of that throughout the year. You're pairing up with Tony Stewart's foundation for a big event. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Tony Stewart and I, we're getting together. Last year he did a fundraiser for K9, bulletproof vest for K9. So it's vest, the number 4, K9s.com. So Tony asked us to come on board and do a promotion and do a charity event together to raise money to put bulletproof vests on the K9s. So we'd love to help out. Tony and I have been talking about it. We're working hard at it.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
I'll tell you what, we're starting to see some rocking and rolling at the top of the charts.
Yep.
Bobby Labonte, the 96 car, just jumps up to second. He actually had catapulted into the top 5 just a little bit ago. Now he's second at a 27.84.
Man,
Right behind him, Jeff Burton 3rd, Jimmy Johnson 5th.
where'd that come from, Larry? I mean, that team has been struggling quite a bit. That's a great lap he just laid down.
But where are we at?
Yeah, he likes this place.
He likes this racetrack. It's, as you mentioned, a driver's racetrack.
Yep.
Denny Hamlin 4th, Jimmy Johnson 5th, and we're pretty sure that all of those top 5, that was practice qualifying runs. 5 cars that are sub 28 seconds flat.
Clint Boyer 28th on the chart. Let's see how much of a pickup he gets in the BB&T Chevrolet.
Actually a little bit slower than his last run. Down to about 25 minutes to go, Darrell. I think we're going to see a lot of practice qualifying runs.
Yeah, Clint's car looks pretty good. I mean, it's not moving around much on the track. Looks like it's kind of going where he wants it to. That's a good thing.
Real bad.
So we went from pushing bad, plowing, to sideways loose. Now we're back to not turning again.
Not a dump. He hadn't called it a dump truck yet, though.
That's good. Krista?
Yeah, really, really
With Carl Edwards. And Carl, I talked with you a little earlier. You said car better in race trim than qualifying. So where are you kind of on the spectrum? Do you feel pretty good with it right now?
We just made a huge gain there. Not up there with the professor right now, Mark. He's got it figured out, but it looks like that weather that's coming. They said it might be breaking up, so we might qualify. And we took a gamble, focusing on qualifying setup, and I'm glad we are, because it's been a lot of work. It's taken about 5 steps to get us where we're at.
And I know a lot of people out there, if they're watching practice, they might not recognize your car because you have a different paint scheme this week.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's Disney Pixar's Up. It's a new movie coming out about a guy. Coincidentally, his name's Carl, and he goes through some roadblocks in life, but like Affleck, his balloons pick him up, and so it's a cool match with Affleck, because that's what they do for people. So looks like a great movie, and can't wait to see it.
Carl on the car and Carl behind the wheel, Mike.
I don't think there's ever been a bad Pixar movie, so that'll be fun to watch.
At least it's not Carl Speckler.
Gopher? What gopher?
This is like a flashback to like 10 or 20 years ago.
It was a throwback paint job to back in the 90s, and the old 6-car ran like it did back in the 90s that night.
It's been almost a year since Mark Martin went to victory lane in a Nextel Cup race at Dover, Delaware. He wants this race back.
Elliott's done everything he can, but Mark's is too good.
Mark Martin wins the Nextel All-Star Challenge and $1,101,000.
It was one of those nights that everything I did was right. It wasn't because I'm smarter than everybody else or anything else, you know. It has to do with sometimes with just luck, with what happens. But every move I made and everything I did that night happened to be just the right move and just the right thing and put us in a position to be, you know, in victory lane that night.
This one's for the fans. Salute to you. That's for you. That's for you.
Celebrating 25 years of All-Star memories. Don't miss the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race on Speed, Saturday, May 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Be there.
That's when Mark used to say 6, that's my number. And some nights it's just your night, and that one truly was his.
Got a little bit of a change, not right at the top, but close to it. Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car just laid down a lap at 27.79. Mark Martin, every time he goes out, he gets about a half to a tenth faster. Now he's down to a 27.73.
And you will not, you'll be surprised. You will shock yourself when you make your qualifying run here, how much you pick up over your practice run. Because even though you're putting out a qualifying lap, you're still being a little bit cautious.
Sam Hornish broke into the top 5. Now Casey Mears is 5th on the board. So 4 Chevys and a Ford, followed by a Dodge and a Toyota. Hamlin.
And you know, I know it's still early on this Casey Mears situation, the 07 car, but you know, he's the kind of guy you just want to see him do good. And they just made that swap over there. He now has Todd Barrier and that whole group from the 29. Had a great run last week. Ended up with his first top 10 finish of the season. And now he's been pretty solid both practice sessions today.
If I were him, I'd say, look, I just want you to guarantee me one thing. This guy's going to be my crew chief for the rest of the year. Because I'm getting tired of, I've worked with everybody in the garage.
He's never had an uneventful year where he was going to have a crew chief change or move into another team. He's never just had a normal full season, I don't think.
Oh, he hadn't, and I think that's what he needs, some consistency.
Michael Waltrip trying to move up.
Mikey
has run 13 laps in this session.
He has been anchored at the bottom of the list.
This just is starting a run here, so I wonder if this is a practice qualifying run. I know he has hope that he's going to go off the bottom of the chart with this run. Because his fast lap is 29.05. Mark Martin, as I mentioned, 27.73.
Car looked like it might be a little snug the way it came off turn 4 there.
Oh, that's a slow.
Yeah, no pickup. Let's catch you up on the drivers who have to qualify on time for this race. There will be 2 that go home, and right now most at risk, Brad Keselowski and Scott Speed, who is in a backup car. Dave Blaney has only practiced 8 laps, the first of which was very eventful. And Max Pappas has run 16 laps.
Now, would that not be a turn of event for Brad Keselowski? He wins the last time he was out at the racetrack in a Sprint Cup Series car a couple weeks ago at Talladega. He's going to be in the All-Star race next week, driving for James Finch in a Hendrick Chevrolet. And we'll have to find some speed here in this practice session, getting ready to qualify.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about James Finch and how that car was a Hendrick Motorsports car. Had a lot of people from Hendrick working on the engine, taking care of everything, and they capitalized.
Yes.
They put all their eggs in one basket. They went to a track where somebody like Brad Keselowski and James Finch could actually win the race with the restrictor plate situation. If I were some of these other teams, I'd take note. Maybe I just need to figure out a 1 race, 2 races, 3 races, and go there the best prepared I could possibly be. I might be able to get me a win.
Greg Biffle's jumped up to 3rd on the board, and Jimmy Johnson displaced tonight by Marcos Ambrose's run. Ambrose is now 6th fastest after a mock qualifying run. Now, we saw Jimmy Johnson's car there all but covered up. Krista?
Well, after Jimmy Johnson's mock qualifying run, he came in and he told Chad Knaus, I smoked it at the green. Jimmy was swinging for the fence on that run. He said he just got such a big run. He just couldn't get the speed he needed, though. He was going for the fence on that one, Mike.
But I'm going to tell you, even though it's 2 laps of qualifying, you get the feeling that the money lap, especially for the top 35 guys, it's going to be the first lap. And how you get through 3 and 4 and off of 4 come to take the green is a big part of that qualifying lap.
Mark Martin, Jeff Burton, fastest in this session. And rain is on the way as we watch Casey Kane, who right now is 32nd. He's run 38 laps in this session, and he's just pulled out on track for a mock run.
Yeah, the most laps run in this practice session, young Joey Logano trying to make his first weekend here at Darlington. He's run 44 laps. Kyle Busch has run 44, his teammate.
And look at that wall go by, Larry, with the stroboscopic effect of the red and white blocks of paint on the wall. It goes by in a hurry.
And it will for sure under the lights tomorrow night.
Gets a little blurred right along in here.
Yeah, right. Too many crayons, not enough paper. Matt?
Martin Truex Jr.'s team drew the 7th spot to roll off for qualifying, and they're hoping that the rain holds off and we can get qualifying in later on today because their car extremely fast. In fact, although he's top 5 on the board, he felt like he heard his coming to the green lap on his mock qualifying run. They're going to put a set of sticker tires on it, go out and make one more qualifying mock run. Then Bono Mannion wants to bring the car back in and try one more adjustment in race trim if they have enough time. He has one more thing he wants to try, but this team very pleased with their piece that they have here. They've never started better than 22nd.
Thanks, Matt. Sam Ornish back up into the top 5. And Brad Keselowski, who was on the gotta-go list. See if he can make it in qualifying later today.
And he actually just stepped it up to 29th quickest. Now, Mike, we have 45 cars here. You've been talking about weather on the way. We heard Carl Edwards talk about qualifying. There are 2 cars that absolutely want to see qualifying happen. This is one of them, Brad Keselowski, the 25 car. The other one would be, I'm gonna get a double check on that.
I think it's Max Pappas and Regan Smith would be the 2 cars, Larry, who would go home if qualifying's rained out. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Because Keselowski won a race.
Yes.
So he would be in.
Yes. And that's the variable. That's one of the accolades you get by winning a race. So,
the 09 would be in.
Because of being a winning car owner.
Owner and driver.
Yeah.
Right.
So the 09's in no matter what on the rain deal. We got Phil Parsons up here who studies this stuff very closely.
Right. And there's so much pantomime going on in this booth. I'm surprised we made sense of it all, but we did.
But short case, the 78 car and the 13 car, that's the 2 cars that want to see qualifying go off because that would be the 2 cars that do not make it.
Well, the 2 1s here, the 11 car, he just went to the top of the board.
Yeah, that's 3 1s.
That's 3 now.
First and number 11.
That's right.
Beats Mark Martin by 1/100th of a second at a 27.725.
Well, Mark, but how many weekends have we seen Mark lead the final practice and have the fastest lap of the weekend and has parlayed it into, I don't know what, 2 or 3 poles?
That's 3 poles so far.
Pretty amazing. No blown tire, no blown engine, and Mark Martin might be singing a different tune.
Now, early in this session, we had 3 of the Gorgo homers among the top 10, and now the fastest of those is Gilliland in 14th as the regulars make their mock runs and move up the chart.
Now, I think that's one car right there, the 82 car, that would love to see a big rainstorm move in here because with this backup car, they don't seem to be able to find the speed. He would be in if the rain come in and moves qualifying away.
Well, this young man should be in either way. If he gets a decent qualifying lap. Gilliland's been fast since they opened the track for practice.
I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we hadn't had a lot of issues here in the last little bit of practice. I think the crew chiefs have finally gotten the message across to the drivers. You know, we're just practicing. Can you take a little easy?
Krista.
The qualifying could be another thing.
What could be.
Denny Hamlin going out for his run just a few moments ago. He came back in and said too tight in turns 1 and 2 and really good in 3 and 4.
Well, now, Darrell, you have to compromise here, one end or the other. Where do you want to be better?
Well, I always like to be better coming to the start-finish line myself, because that means you might see a finish like we saw here a few years ago between Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven. So if I can get off turn 4 better than the other guy, I feel pretty confident I might be able to beat him to the line.
All right. Closing minutes of final practice qualifying later on this afternoon here in Darlington.
I don't want to catch the rabbit. I want to eat him.
Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup final practice is brought to you by the Harley-Davidson Super Ride. Take the ride of your life today.
If y'all only knew what went on your commercial.
You know,
Oh, boy.
it's a great story. It's a great. Go ahead.
Well, last night I was sitting in my motor coach, and I was watching the Weather Channel, and they're doing this thing on the vortex theory, and I thought, yes, they'll give Mike and Larry and I some credit because we've said that for years. But about the time I started, I thought, man, I smell something. I called Jimbo, my coach driver. I said, Jimbo, I think I got an electrical fire. He said, oh, no, I'll be right over. I said, let me look around and see if I can figure out where it's coming from. I walk over and I look out the window, and Larry is sitting right under he's parked right beside me. He's sitting right under me with a stogie about a foot long, all lit up, and there's a cloud hanging around him. He's puffing on it so hard. And it was coming up in the coach, and I thought I had something burning.
Oh, boy.
I looked out the window, and his whole red head, all I saw was this red head, a beacon almost, and that big old long cigar sticking out there and a little cloud all around. And and you'd have loved it, he had a whole table full of notes.
Well,
he was studying.
It's like who lit the dump on fire. Saw Tony Raines 25th.
Oh, trouble over there off turn 2.
Yeah, and Bobby Labonte is in the wall.
Dadgum.
Now Labonte's time, which was second quickest, now it's 10th.
He got it pretty good too.
Yeah, he was trying to make another mock qualifying run as this session winds down.
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson is now quickest, and there's a look at Bobby Labonte up in the fence.
He got her pretty good.
Turn 2 again.
But you can just see how look at the dark streak and look at the groove off turn 2 over there, and look how narrow it is. And if you get out of that, you're in big trouble.
Krista is with the man who is fastest.
That's right, Mike. Jimmy Johnson jumped to the top of the chart after that qualifying run. I heard you on the first one before that, and you said you smoked it to the green, swinging for the fence. How does the car feel after that one?
It's good. You know, this place, there's certain feelings I guess I'm still looking for that I'm just not going to get. And the speeds are so much higher that what's triggering the handling characteristics of the car is different than what I'm used to. So we've been playing with a bunch of stuff. I feel that we're good in race trim. Could be a little better. And then here in qualifying trim, I kind of pieced together what I needed to do along with some changes to the car and got a good lap up there. So if I can just do it one more time today, we'll be good.
Well, does that quick time still leave you then with that feeling you're still missing something that you want in the feeling in the race car?
Well, you got to ask so much out of the car right now because the asphalt being new and the tire is so strong. Where in the past here, you dealt with a lot of things at the start of the run, and it didn't matter how fast you went then because at the end of the run it mattered the most. Now it's kind of flipped where if you give up too much at the beginning, they're going to be so far gone and you can't pass, that you're going to be in trouble. So I'm having to switch my mindset more than anything.
All right, thanks, Jimmy.
Jimmy Johnson quickest with a 71. So there are now.
Oh, we got more trouble.
Turn 4.
Marcos Ambrose. Hard. That was a hard lick off turn 4.
As these guys go into qualifying trim, try to put down that fast lap, this is what happens.
And who interviewed him earlier?
Matt Yoakum.
Boy, Yoakum's down there. Oh yeah, that's hard on that right front. She just stepped out with him, and that's the fine line you walk.
He lost it and caught it, but the racetrack just wasn't wide enough by the time he caught it.
Once you get that dirt on your tires, you're done. You got no control.
We've got about 5 minutes left in this practice session. We've got 45 cars here. 18 have been bitten by the lady in black.
Will they paint that wall tonight?
I wouldn't.
315
gallons of paint they could save right there.
Going to need a lot of paint. This program can be seen live on your Sprint phone. Marcus Ambrose picking up a lot of red and white paint where it doesn't belong, right there in the beans.
You know, it's as I look at these cars come down pit road, the right side looks the same in every one of them.
And you know, the 47 group, Frankie Kerr and them, they're in a little bit of a box there. Obviously, they're trying to evaluate. Let's go down to Matt. Matt, are they going to go to backup? They're going to try to fix that.
Larry Mack, that's exactly what they're talking about. First off, blame the driver, not the messenger. Number two, are you going to be able to race this or you have to go to a backup?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I hit it pretty good, but these guys are so strong. It was more of a side swipe than anything, and when it's like that, it's normally pretty good.
We're going to slide in here so we don't get a Darlington stripe from Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming in. So what exactly happened?
Well, we just made a change. We were pretty quick on our first tape-off run. I asked to free it up a bit. I guess I freed it up too much.
All right, thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, Matt. Jeff Burton has jumped to the top of the heat.
We're getting there, Larry. Of course, it's cooling down, too, with this weather moving in. I bet the track temps dropped some, but that's a 68. We're a couple of tenths away from that 40 that they ran here last year.
In fact, Jeff Gordon just jumped to the top with a 68, but a 6.84 to a 6.88 on Jeff Burton. That 24 car, 4 1/1000ths of a second faster than Jeff Burton. But you're right. I think if we get this qualifying run in, I think they're going to flirt with that track record again.
I do, too. Of course, it's the same tire from last year, and we know that they've improved these cars considerably since last year.
It's
the same right side.
Grippier left side tire.
A little different left, but the same right side tire.
Carl Edwards on a flyer. He's been knocked all the way down to 36th.
You know how many tires they bring here this weekend for this race? For both series, Nationwide and Cup, 5,000 tires.
Wow.
5,000. And guess where they go? About 4,000 of them, roughly 4,000 of them are in the Cup Series. Guess where the other 1,000 is over to Nationwide. So, if you ever thought about how a way to save money, of course, the race is a little bit longer, so I guess you would use more. But
that's a pretty short Nationwide Series race. It's only 147 laps, 200 miles.
Yep.
And that big sigh of relief you just heard is from every crew chief in the garage area because practice is over.
And that beating sound you heard is from the rest of them beating on the quarter
Well,
panel.
there's about 26 to 28 that are very relieved because their cars do not have Darlington stripes.
So by 4 1/1000ths of a second, Jeff Gordon wins practice over Jeff Burton and Jimmy Johnson, 3 Chevys, Hamlin's Toyota, Mark Martin's Chevy, and then 2 Fords.
If you don't have a Darlington stripe, there's one reserved for you out there, I promise.
Yeah, right.
See David Gilliland there, the 71 car, that's the fastest of the go-or-go-homers back in 20th.
But the very real problem we're facing is to the southwest, and it's the weather. This big storm cell in front has been building ever since we first came on the air with opening practice. And we'll have to wait and see if we'll be able to get Coors Light full qualifying in this afternoon.
See Dave Blaney back there in 40th and Scott Speed in 43rd. We know 2 cars will go home. That's the slowest of our go-or-go-home cars.
Yeah, there's the clouds that are building around the speedway here. When it comes, I got a feeling it's going to be pretty serious.
We're told it's about 5.2 miles away right now. Jeff Gordon has to be happy with that. 27.68. He ran 24 laps, the last one with the best. Kevin Harvick,
not so much.
No, other side of the chart, 28th. If we get qualifying in, Mayfield, Pappas, Blaney, and Speed are the 4 drivers with work to do. There goes Captain Kirk. Okay, it's David Stremme. As we get ready for nationwide qualifying, we're going to toss it across to the speed stage and Steve Burns.
We're right there.